So, Danny, I'd like to start with you. You made a lot of waves several weeks back when you said you were going to ask for vaccination proof from staff and customers. And since then, a lot of other restaurant groups have joined that position. And now we have all of New York City restaurants that will have to require proof of vaccination by September 13th. I'd like to get your thoughts on um, why you kind of were an early adopter of that position, what drove you to that, and how that's played out for you personally in your restaurants.
I think that New York was an early adopter of COVID, unfortunately, and we had so many really tough experiences in the city with having to lay people off, close restaurants, take forever to get reopened. And as we stumbled our way back into business in 2020, it was almost always based on things like trying to take people's temperatures in order to allow them to dine outdoors, uh, and or QR codes to get contact tracing. And there's just no question in my mind that the one thing that finally moved our economy forward and allowed us to begin to hire people back and to begin to open our doors to guests was when the vaccinations were starting to be much more available to people. And so it's very, very clear to me when you look at data, especially when the Delta variant started to sweep through the country, that people who were not vaccinated had a far, far greater level of infection and hospitalizations in some cases. And so it was clear to us that we did not want to go back, that getting this economy back on its feet was far, far more important than anything else. And so we said, let's do what we think is the right thing from a hygiene standpoint, both for our staff members and our guests. And so we took a stand on it.
So I misspoke before. So I guess the mandate begins today. So Danny, how is it that you're going to enforce this? What are the kind of protocols or training sessions that you need to do with staff to make this work seamlessly and not really put them in the kind of the role of the police in this very acrimonious situation?
Yeah, well, that's actually a great point. That's the last thing we want to do. It's actually quite helpful that this is now a citywide mandate. So we're not asking our staff members to do anything that restaurant goers throughout New York City won't be experiencing wherever they go to dine. But keep in mind, this is a two-sided requirement that we're asking. We are asking our staff members themselves to prove that they've been vaccinated, and we're asking our guests to prove that they've been vaccinated. We didn't think we could ask one constituency and not the other. How would it feel if you were a staff member if we didn't require this of our guests? And at the same time, how would you feel if you were a guest understanding that we didn't require it of our staff members? So from a staff standpoint, uh, it's the same type of credentialing that we ask for so many other aspects before we hire you. And there's been a lot of information gathering, a lot of counseling, and we've had a pretty good success at converting some, not all people. I'm sad to say we probably will lose some staff members, but they won't be going to other New York City restaurants because it's now the law throughout New York City. We do have some concern that we may lose some hospitality employees to, say, retail, because unfortunately the mandate in New York City does not apply to all different business sectors. It's entertainment, gyms, and restaurants. So we'll see what happens there. With respect to our guests, we're going to do the exact same protocol that we did for months when we were taking everybody's temperature, asking everybody to provide information so we could do contact tracing. Only this time it's going to be a matter of, please show us your smartphone, where many, many people have their proof of vaccination digitally stored. And for those who don't, they have a CDC card with a proof of vaccination. And it's a pretty straightforward thing. I've already experienced this as a guest in other people's restaurants. And I think people who have been vaccinated are all too happy to know that they're going to be surrounded by and served by people who have been vaccinated.